This is BlackJupiter, and I'm Agent Random. Prove me wrong, I freaking dare you. As someone that spends more time than your grandmother playing and talking about a Square Enix game from 2007, I've come across a lot of interesting secrets hidden in The World Ends With You. And as far as I can tell, nobody here on www.wethoughtambientmodewasagoodidea.com seems to have covered that, so I'm here today to cover every Easter egg, reference, and interesting hidden goodie in The World Ends With You. We're covering story, gameplay, and even those thought fragments that nobody ever reads. We're doing it all! Just the first game, by the way. I'll cover the sequel and the anime another time since those are sort of their own things. Today, we'll specifically be looking at both the DS version and its Switch port. I do not own the mobile one, and I'm not paying $18 just to watch one extra cutscene that probably doesn't have any Easter eggs in it. Okay, cool. I should also note that we are specifically looking at the English localization of the game. This is noteworthy since it contains a number of references not present in Japanese. The reverse is probably also true, but reading and writing in one language is hard enough. You really expect me to do two? If anyone who knows Japanese knows any Japanese exclusive references, throw them in the comments and we'll throw you a heart. With that out of the way, let's begin! After this legally mandated spoiler warning. This video contains spoilers for all versions of the original World Ends With You video game. If you do not have a desire to be spoiled on anything from either story or gameplay, then please ask yourself what you're doing on this channel. BlackJupiter is not liable for any information that you wish you did not know. If you agree to these terms, please like this video, subscribe twice, and hit the bell 3 frickin' times. Anyone who can name that reference gets a cookie. The first place to start on our journey is with Neku. He wears headphones 24/7 to block out the world. This is inspired from a Japanese proverb about some monkeys. One of these monkeys embodies the concept of hear no evil and covers its ears. Neku is this monkey. Hear no evil, along with the other three, see no evil, speak no evil, and do no evil, are all represented in the irregular note pin set. Not long after starting, the game's opening will play, and it high-key spoils the entire game, but moves so fast that who can even tell what's happening? Me and my pause button, that's who. The opening starts with Neku running for his life from some killer frogs. On his way, he runs past all three of his future partners. Shiki looking shocked at not looking Shiki, Beat probably running to find Rhyme or something, and Joshua who smiles at Neku as he runs by. I'm not going to explain why Joshua smiled here. If you're watching this video, then you should already know that he just does that sometimes. The next noteworthy part of the opening is this shot with two Shikis. Of course, one of these is actually Eri, and I bet they're telling each other, "I'm me," she says. Moving forward a bit, there's a shot with Kitanishi, Joshua, and Neku, which represents all three major players in the game for Shibuya's fate. Once the intro is done and you arrive at Hachiko, Joshua can be seen standing there for a split second. As soon as the next scene plays, he's gone. Like Joshua says in the second week, he spent this week watching Neku. This detail is actually much easier to see in the DS game since the overworld is still visible even during cutscenes. But Joshua's sprite does blend in more with the crowd in this version, so maybe it all evens out. On the second day, you meet Beat and Rhyme. Beat introduces Rhyme as his partner, but takes a pause midway through his sentence because he's not used to not calling her his sister. You then soon gain access to your phone menu. There, you can swap out what song plays in that menu. You start out with only one, It's So Wonderful, which also is the title screen music. Its description reads, when you're ready to just reset everything, because the only thing you can do on the main menu is start the game or reset it. Now's as good a time as any to mention this. Did you know that on the DS version you can move your pins around by pausing in battle? Well, congrats, now you do. You can then come across this geek who's really obsessed with the Moai statue. And even though we never get to see his talking sprite, his overworld sprite shows that he is the character Pin Professor, who is based off of Tomohiro Hasegawa, the game's co-director. You can find him in a few places throughout the game, but most notably in Another Day. We also get our first glimpse at Higashizawa this day. He has a yellow eye due to him only recently acquiring his noise form, Avis Cantus, and still not fully being able to control it. On the third day, we first meet Hanekoma and also hear his theme, Game Over. The entire song is one of the few World Ends With You songs that I feel like is meant to directly represent something in universe, with its lyrics summing up Hanekoma's character. Specifically, it talks about anonymity within art to parallel Hanekoma's double life as the artist Cat, who in itself is likely a reference to Banksy. One of the lines in the songs compares anonymity to the Japanese text board 2 channel.
Few lies of the sentence line, anonymity annoying me all the time. It's like a 2 channel where people just throw their anger, forget about those foul actions.
While Ron Mr. H, he drops some facts about himself. First off, his birthday is March 3rd. 33 is an angel number. He also admits to being a big gambler, which is evident when he goes on to place his bet on Sho to stop Joshua from destroying Shibuya by teaching him the secrets of taboo energy. Gotta say, not super sure that gamble worked out. The third day also takes you to the Shibuya main store for the first time. There's a sign that reads 10/8, which could maybe suggest that this game takes place around October 8th. Or maybe not, I don't know. Apparently the dates in this series don't even make sense if you try to put them together, so probably no point in thinking about it. One of the pins that you can get from this day's boss is the pin Righty Cat, part of the Over the Top set. I built a theory off of this in my Gods and Demons video, but this pin and the others in its set, Lefty Cat and Brainy Cat, have descriptions that tie them to power, wisdom, and courage, and a reference to the Triforce from The Legend of Zelda. When inside 10-4 on the next day, we can see Mina and Nao simping for the prince. This is the first appearance for both of these characters. Later in the scene, Shiki tells Neku that the way he dresses sends a message. In response, Neku thinks that he wishes he had more zippers so that he could tell her to zip it. This, of course, is a reference to the World NTWEWY's main character designer Tetsuya Nomura, who was and is very famous for excessively putting zippers on plenty of his designs. Heading into the Wild Boar shop afterwards will allow you to find the threads Sabotage and 3 MCs 1 DJ, which are both references to different Beastie Boys songs. As the day progresses, you'll soon unlock the Noise Report. This allows you to see all the noise enemy names, so I feel like now's a good time to mention that all of the noise are named after various genres of music. I'm not going to go over all 90-something references here, look them up yourself. Right after, you can enter the shop Mind and Body Foods and chat up its shopkeeper Banzai Ayanakoji. After leveling up his FSG enough, he'll mention that he has a grandson named Shudo. That's the little tin pin snot who you can run into later in the game. At the end of the day, Ryan becomes shark food and saves Beat's unlife, but for just a moment, an image flashes of Beat trying to save Ryan from a car. This is an early foreshadowing to their death that entered them into the Reaper's game. Karia then offhandedly mentions how to create noise as set up for the one thing that Beat will actually accomplish when he becomes a Reaper. But I want to draw attention to the fact that this is the one instance in the entire game script outside of the secret reports in which the concept of soul with a capital S is brought up. And of course, it's from Karia. Afterwards, Neku has a brief moment where he says that Rhyme's death is just like that time, before struggling to remember what time he's actually talking about, because amnesia will do that to you. This doesn't get brought up for the rest of the main story, but the moment in question is likely the death of Neku's old best friend, an event greater explored in another day and one that led him to become the little emo boy that he is at the start of the game. Not really anything to say about the 5th day unless you're playing Final Remix and head into AMX, in which there's a lot of music that you can buy with a lot of noteworthy details. The live version of 3 Minutes Clapping directly mentions its singer JD Camaro, and I believe this is one of, if not the only CD in the series to do that. The track Runaway is also here and has a description that talks about ending since it acts as this version's credits theme. There's also a new version of Twister here called the Union Cross Mix, which was a song that you could play in the lobby of the mobile game Kingdom Hearts Union Cross when equipping one of the World NTWEWY medals. Its description talks about going to new worlds, meeting up with your friends like agreed upon, and holding on to promises. All of these are concepts and themes common in the Kingdom Hearts series. On the next day, Shiki is particularly down in the dumps because the scary food man said some scary food words to her. She's so bummed out, in fact, that her dialogue when escaping a battle changes. Normally, when you run from a fight, she will slowly start chastising Neku more and more until she reaches her limit and starts clucking like a chicken. I guess that detail wasn't super important to this Easter egg, but I didn't know when else I was going to tell you that this scene exists, so it's happening now. Anyway, on day 6, Shiki just doesn't say anything, prompting Neku to comment on how awkward the situation is. Throughout the rest of the day, Neku and Shiki follow my boy Makoto around as he tries to sell red skull pins to various NPCs, some of which haven't really been introduced yet like Shooter. Also, Yammer shows up early, say hi. But the most interesting group that he meets is Soda and Nao, who become players in the second week, meaning that this has to be one of their final moments before dying. This is touched on more in the anime. This is also the first day that you can enter TWEWY records and, in Final Remix, obtain the 1960s version of Calling. Its description references Back to the Future by telling you to hop on a DeLorean for the song's futuristic and retro vibes. You can also find the Kingdom mix of Calling and Twister here in Final Remix, which both first debuted in Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. Their descriptions both mention hearts as a reference to the hearts of which there is a kingdom. Twister's description also says that the song is thanks to the ultimate crossover. Hey, would you look at that? The first final day sees us battle Higashizawa's noise form, Avis Cantus. Higashizawa, along with all the other Reapers, have their noise forms determined from their names and whatever animal from the Chinese zodiac is hidden within them. I'll cover the rest as we progress through the story, but Higashizawa has the Japanese word for goat hidden in his name, which can also be translated to sheep or ram. Just take my word for it. Like I said, I'm not nearly bilingual enough to correctly explain the etymology. And while we're at it, his name also has the word for east hidden in it. Each of the game's 4 game masters have a direction hidden in them. As an example, the game master at the start of this week, Megumi Kitaniji, has the word north hidden in his name. Moving over to the second week, we meet Joshua. In the DS game, he refers to Neku by name a little bit before Neku actually introduces himself. You would think this is an intentional detail, but apparently not, since he got removed from all future versions. That said, he is still very capable of referring to Neku by name early in battle.
Have fun, Neku.
Neku first meets the Mina Man soon after, and when Sho sees the two, he's shocked to see that Joshua is a player now. Neku mistakenly believes Sho to be talking about him. Additionally, Sho says that some old horses can always hear their owner approach. The first letters of each word are capitalized because they all spell out Sokotoa, a mnemonic expression used to remember trigonometric functions. Sho calling Joshua his owner shows that Sho knows that Joshua is the composer. A further detail from Sho and Josh's pre-game tussle is his megaphone, or more specifically, the hand that he's holding it with. Sho's dominant hand, as seen in Neku's later flashbacks, is his right one since he's holding his gun with it. This is the hand that doesn't have any tattoos. But Sho holds the megaphone with his other hand throughout the game, possibly due to getting shot in his dominant arm just before the story began. On the second day, Shooter gives Neku a drawing explaining how Tinpin works. The drawing just so happens to include a little sketch of Ken Doi, the ramen man, who is the creator of Tinpin in Another Day, and also possibly the creator in this day, since I'm not sure why else he would be in this drawing. I don't know, maybe Shooter's like an angel that jumps between worlds or something. MatPat, call me. Sho then shows up like an organization member, spouts some stuff that the protagonist doesn't understand, and then leaves. But when he leaves, he says QED, class is dismissed. QED is short for the Latin phrase quod erit demonstrandum, which roughly translates to it has been demonstrated, and is commonly placed at the end of a mathematical proof. The next day begins with Joshua faking a mission mail to get to Cat Street just so he could meet with Hanekoma. As Neku points out later, he never actually got the mission mail since Josh fabricated it all on his phone. But it's also notable that Joshua can't actually receive mission mail in the first place since he's not an official player. When Neku and his partner arrive at Cat Street, they have the ability to go into the Jupiter of the Monkey store, so I feel like now is a good time to cover this brand. It's Neku's favorite brand and the brand where all of his clothes are supposed to come from. Also, its name is similar to the name of one of the development studios, Jupiter. Also, its name is similar to a certain YouTube channel. When talking with Hanekoma, Mr. H tells Neku the Joshua backstory that may or may not even be true. But what is true is Neku's reaction to hearing that Joshua could see the Yuji from the RG. Like what? I see dead people kind of things? As a reference to the famous line from The Sixth Sense.
I see dead people.
On your way back, you'll have a mini-boss encounter with Beat. Beat, like most other Reapers in this game, has a name that has an animal from the Chinese zodiac hidden in it, which would be used to determine his noise form. If he Had one. In Beat's case, it's the monkey. The song playing during his fight and final remix is called Tatakai and is one of the few songs in the series aside from Game Over from earlier that was seemingly written with the intent of tying into a character. The song's lyrics are very fitting for Beat's story. Later on in the day, you can find Shooter and Yammer discussing the Tin Pin Slammer TV show Slammerai. Yammer mentions two of its characters, Black and Yellow, and speculates that the two might actually be brothers. In Another Day, Black is the codename given to Rhyme, and Yellow is the codename given to Beat. At the start of the fourth day, Neku and Joshua play some Tin Pin, and Neku mocks Joshua by doing one of Josh's poses. This is the only time that this specific spray is used in the entire game. They made it just for this bit, and I love that. After doing this whole microphone side quest that, spoilers, goes nowhere, BJ admits that he was at the phone booth to ask a girl out and got rejected. Thanks, sorry man. But if you want to invade my man's privacy and find out who his crush is on, just go and find Uzuki and Karia on the previous day. Because Uzuki will receive a call from BJ and quickly hang up because the poor guy didn't speak up enough. After finally getting past Death March, you can go to Shibuku Heads for the first time and by extension, the pharmacy where you can pick up some sync bars. A food item that's designed to make you friends without you even having to try. It's also hated by everyone except Joshua because he's lonely. You can also meet Shigemori Iwata, the shopkeeper, for the third floor. If you pay attention to certain thoughts and shopkeeper dialogue throughout the game, you'll learn that he's the brother of Yoji Iwata, the Tower Records shopkeep, and Shinta Iwata, the Cosmic Corner owner. Shinta is the oldest of the three. Also, one of the Q heads is named Tatsuya Amora. Take a wild guess as to who that could be referencing. This is also the first point in the game where the player can enter Utagawa and Psycho Records, where you can pick up Twister, the game's main theme and a song often associated with Neku. Furthering that connection, its description reads, "When you can't get past your boundaries," symbolizing Neku's inability to expand his world at the start of the game. Also, Twister Remix's description reads, "When you've crossed every boundary." The Kingdom mix of Someday can also be found here in Final Remix. The song also first appeared in Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. Its description talks about reaching for forgotten memories. I want to say that this is a reference to Chain of Memories, or possibly even Rhyme's weird unexplained memory loss from Dream Drop. Not a ton to say about the fifth day, except for this one Reaper review. The Reaper asks who runs Ramendan, and the correct answer is Kendoi, but one of the wrong answers is Tatsuya Kondo. In a way, this is sort of the correct answer, since Kondo is the game's director and Kendoi was based off of him. On the final day of the second week, Neku and Joshua make their way to Pork City, and it has the gimmick where each floor blocks each brand's pin except for one. This is hinted at earlier when the players get the message, "Have cow and mouse on hand." As Joshua points out, if you stand still and talk to him, this relates to the brands D+B and Mus Radis, which represents the cow and mouse in the Chinese zodiac. All of the brands in the series are tied to one of the animals on the Chinese zodiac or an animal associated with the zodiac. There's a lot of zodiac symbolism not just in the brands, but in a lot of other places in the game, like with the Reaper's names. I'll keep touching on them as they come up, but we can go more in depth another day. The week ends with a battle against Minamimoto. His health in the noise report is 3141. 3.141 are the first 4 digits of pi. Man is literally made of math. Oh, also say hi to his noise form, Leo Cantus. It's based off of a lion because Sho has the word for the pig zodiac hidden in his name. Wait, that's not right. Apparently the kanji for pig is phonetically similar to the kanji for lion, and that's why he's a lion. Also, someone wrote on the World Ends With You wiki that while lions aren't a part of the Chinese zodiac, they are a part of the Western one, which suggests that Sho's rebellion extends to him being a part of a totally different zodiac. I don't know if that's true or intended at all, but it's still really funny. Also, the place he's hiding out on this day is Pork City, repping the pig in his name. Oh, and since he's a game master, he also has the word for a compass direction in his name. This time, it's south. In Final Remix, the song Transformation plays for Shou's fight and is generally accepted as Shou's theme. As far as I can tell, there isn't a ton in the song's lyrics that explicitly states it to be Shou's theme, but the title Transformation shares its name with a geometric concept. When you beat Shou, he decides to suicide bomb Neku and Joshua instead of simply getting erased because Shou's a petty one. Specifically, he does it with an attack called a level I flare, which is an attack with a ton of layers and meanings and probably like 3 extra ones that only Dog Emperor knows. Let me try and break this one down best as I understand it. A flare attack is lifted from the Final Fantasy series and are generally like large magic blasts of some variety intended to wipe out whole waves of enemies. Final Fantasies 5 through 7 all had what were called the level flare attacks. These only dealt damage to targets who had levels equal to a multiple of the flare level. So if you bust out a level 4 flare, you'll hit enemies that are level 16 but not level 17. I is an imaginary number and is the equivalent to the square root of -1. Long math short, every number is a multiple of I regardless of whether or not the number is even real. Therefore, the level I flare will hit anything and everything. Oh, and it's also probably getting some sort of boost from the fact that imagination is an actual tangible force that's used to power the psyches in the World Entity universe. So when everyone expects Joshua to be dead, that's because he should have been ultra toast from this attack. If you're playing New Game Plus, then you can find the boy's uniform with blazer item on this day. Its description says that it's from St. Michael's School. It is named after Michael, one of the archangels, and if I know my World Ends With You, then I bet there's probably some secret lore there. Similarly, on the first day of the 3rd week, you can nab the girl's uniform with blazer on New Game Plus, which is said to be from Saint Ursula's. Saint Ursula is a Christian martyr. Another one of the Saint Ursula uniforms can also be found in another day. Konishi is our final game master, so let's cover a little bit about her. Throughout the game, Konishi's dialogue has always been in a square text box instead of the rounded bubble most other characters use. This seems to show an extremely formal tone that she always speaks with. The first day of the 3rd week is the first time that she drops that, and it's when she's alone. The most notable time that she drops it later is when she's being erased. On the 3rd day of the 3rd week, you have the ability to unlock a book called Black Cat Atlas Volume 10. The book reads, playing Reaper Creeper requires Matoya's spell, but then there's what looks like to be gibberish. I said gibber. I just say gibberish? Oh my gosh. Gibberish is a mouthful, so most people don't bother. Matoya is a character from Final Fantasy who owns these brooms that tell you how to access the world's map but speak the instructions backwards. The gibberish on the Black Cat Atlas describes how you see your playtime. The text is different depending on your version, since DS and Final Remix have different methods of doing that. Why on earth seeing your playtime is an Easter egg is beyond me. If you go into the Stride on this day to play some Tin Pin, you'll find the Pin Professor from before and Ken Doi playing some Tin Pin, but they're joined by a new face. He gets named in another day as the Vice Wizard of Slam and is based off of the planning director Takashi Arakawa. It's worth noting that most players assume him to be based off of Tetsuya Nomura because I won't lie, they do look pretty similar. But no, this is Arakawa, not Nomura. The day ends with a battle against Uzuki. Just like Beat, she does not have a noise form but still carries the naming conventions as if she did. She has the word for the rabbit zodiac hidden in her name, so if she ever graduates and loses those wings, she'll turn into a rabbit noise. The 4th day begins with Neku and Beat being dumped onto the Miyashita Park underpass. There, the two find a little memorial for Beat and Rhyme's death. Part of the memorial is a can of cola and a glass of milk. Cola is one of Beat's favorite drinks, so milk might be one of Rhyme's. Swear, just saying that if you ever make Rhyme playable, please let her like milk, thank you. This day ends with Neku and Beat fighting Karia. Just like Uzuki, he can't turn into a noise, but sure does have a zodiac in his name. That's being the dog. Karia's noise form would be a puppy. Oh, and then you fight both Uzuki and Karia at the same time. In the DS version, they use a light puck just like you and your partner, allowing them to take advantage of all the perks that the player gets by controlling 2 characters. This was not carried over into Final Remix. I shudder to think of the version of this fight in which these two use cross combos to combo lock you. On day 5, you can get the head honcho uniform, which is a reference apparently to the Japanese Nintendo DS game Osu Tatake Oidan, which is a game that I've known about since 5 minutes before writing this part of the script. The clothing item is one that you collect in New Game Plus, and just like all of the other New Game Plus items, there's a corresponding person thinking about it in the game. And the title of their thought is which is something that they say in the game, I think. Dang, is this what normal people feel like if they ever talk about the world ends with you? Neku and Beach run back in the show and have a fight with him. This time his health is 5,926, which are the next 4 digits of pi after the first 4 were used in his first battle. After losing to him, Beat asks what sort of things this tank of a man eats. In response, Sho says that he eats slabs of ham, celery, and horseradish, tons of asparagus. Just like when Sho first met Joshua, the first letters are all capitalized and they all again spell out Sokotoa. Final day! We fight Konishi's noise form, Tigris Cantus, and you know the drill. Her name contains the word for the tiger zodiac. Her outfit is also black and white like a tiger. Also, she has the final direction, west, in her name. As you progress through this final stretch, you'll come across the Trail of the Judged, which is full of Cat's artwork. Cat's artwork has a ton of symbolism, but most of it is a little interpretive. What I do want to point out is that each of the symbols for the Darklit Planet pins are hidden in his artwork both here and in the Miyashita Park underpass. Here in the Trail of the Judged, you'll find Black Mars, Black Mercury, and Black Jupiter. Over in Miyashita, you can see Black Uranus and Black Saturn, with Black Venus additionally being visible in the DS version. The art for the Eden set is also visible here. Not long after, Neku arrives in the Room of Reckoning. The background depicts 2 pillars with a Reaper and an angel on each one, with the composer's throne in between each. This symbolizes how the composer is the intermediary between the two, or it would if that didn't get retconned. We soon find out Kitaniji's grand plan. He wants to unite all of Shibuya under one voice so that other people's desires and thoughts are silenced. This is a dark exaggeration of Neku's beliefs at the start of the game, and to hammer that home, both characters wear headphones. Both wish to hear no evil. We also soon see Kitaniji's noise form, Anguis Cantus. It's a big snake. Kitaniji's name has the word for the snake zodiac hidden in it. Kitaniji gives his final boss just one extra phase by merging with Joshua and creating Reiko Cantus. Since Joshua is secretly the composer, he follows the naming conventions of most Reapers. He has the Japanese word for dragon, I actually know this one, Ryu, hidden in his name. And Reiko Cantus is a dragon. Also, most of his abilities and threads come from the dragon-themed brand Dragon Couture. To finish out the main story, when Neku does his super ultra mega blast of pure unfiltered protagonist energy, for a second you can see the Reaper symbol in the attack. No, not there. There. Another day begins, and the first person Neku can see is Shiki, who looks just like she does in the RG. If you choose to immediately book it to Utagawa, you can find Joshua, who will completely unpromptedly explain that our perception of reality has preconditioned us to only show Shiki like Eri. Oh, and PS, making new sprites for her just for this day would have been a waste of dev time. Thank you, Joshua, very cool. Another day houses the game's secret boss, Hanakoma's noise form, Panthera Cantus. Hanakoma has the word for cat, Neko, hidden in his name. Also, Neku does, but this isn't about him. The cat actually isn't a part of the Chinese zodiac, but did try to join. His relationship to the cat is also further embodied with his alias Cat, his affinity for drawing cats, and his cafe Wildcat on Cat Street, where you can get abilities for threads that he supplied to the Gatito brand, which is Spanish for cat. I just love how this game couldn't spell subtlety if it tried. When Neku's done getting his butt kicked and finally reaches Molko, he's greeted by the scary food man pretending to be a booth babe. He says the line, "Dilly dally shilly shally," a reference to Tifa in Final Fantasy VII Advent Children.
Dilly dally shilly shally.
Later on, Shiki is given the code name Green, which is said to match her skirt, but also matches the main color scheme of her real appearance. As you progress through the day, you'll be able to obtain the pins Tinpin Bahamut, Tinpin Ifrit, and Tinpin Shiva. All of these are references to summons from Final Fantasy. Hey, remember that techie that was helping out 777 and who appeared throughout the game? Well, turns out he has a name and it's only ever said in another day. It's Futoshi. There you go. If you go and decide to beat Kitaniji in a game of Tinpin, he will say, "I now see why he picked you." Ugh. Just like he does when he gets a race in the main story. Why Funimation didn't hire me to voice Kitaniji in the English dub, I will never know. You're able to find Soda around this point, and if you do, he'll reveal that he's Neku's barber. Aside from the fun revelation that Neku has his hair modeled after comic book characters, Soda also mentions that Neku is in need of a haircut. This is because, according to one of the guidebooks, Neku keeps his hair long in the main story to allow him to hide his face. But since Neku isn't cursed with as much emo-ness in another day, the reason for his hair length is that he's just been putting off a haircut. Alright, this next one is less Easter egg and more just plain hidden detail, but I like it, so we'll quickly cover it. If you decide to go into Wildcat before bringing Ryan back through the Miyashita Park underpass, you'll trigger a scene where Hanakoma explains to Neku that he's out looking for some reports he's written, and if Neku wants to lend him a hand, he should grab any that he sees as long as he never ever reads them. Of course, Hanakoma is talking about the secret reports that the player spends most of the post-game collecting. The day's true final boss is this man who calls himself the Wizard of Slam. But Joshua also names him Shinji Hashimoto. As is stated fairly plainly, he is the producer, not just of Tinpin, but The World Ends With You as well. We're not done yet, because Final Remix has a new day, which has its own batch of Easter eggs and a new Reaper, Koko Adarashi. Her name in Japanese literally translates to new girl because the writers just think they're hilarious. But she also has a word for the rat zodiac hidden in her name, so her noise form would be a rat, or more likely a mouse, since she has mouse ears on her jacket. If you decide to start reading people's minds at any point in a new day, you might come across one titled Descriptive. It talks about the kanji for the word new, which would later be a part of the title of the next game. Neo meaning new, and the kanji that this guy is talking about is even on the logo. I should be clear, however, that one of Neo's developers has stated that the name was come up with very shortly before the game's announcement, 2 years after Final Remix. So whether or not this reference was real foreshadowing is up to you. To progress in this day, you will be required to nab the Green Dragon pin. This, along with the other new pins in this day, have their designs lifted from Live Remix, which is a game that I'm not explaining in this video. But Green Dragon has the fun distinction of still carrying the logo for the brand that it originated from in Live Remix, even if it's unbranded here in Final Remix. Right there, you can see the logo for Mithril Scale. And I guess while we're on the subject, the pin Unfortune Teller is a reference to Alice in Wonderland. The final boss of A New Day is a taper, which is believed in Japanese folklore to consume nightmares, which might tie into its role here as a being made of dissonance energy. After clearing the day, you'll be able to go back to Wildcat and grab the final boss theme, question mark, question mark, question mark. Its description reads, when time travel is on your mind, hinting at Rindo's replay ability from the next game. But before I finish, I wound up finding a couple of Easter eggs while editing this video. I could just go and integrate them into the video where they would chronologically go, but this video is over half an hour long and I already edited most of it, so I'm just gonna cover them right here in the Great Easter Egg Speed Round of 2023! First up, in the original manual for the DS game, there was a reference to Meat Spin. Next, Kitaniji's noise form drops the hip snake pin, because it's a big snake. Also, his headphones are purchasable at Tower Records, which is an area that Hipsnake commonly defaults to as the most popular brand. Moving on, Pin Professor is also visible hanging out in front of the Moyai statue on the final day of the third week. The Wizard of Slam can be found in the main story on the 3rd day of the week, standing outside of Stride. He plays the same role that he does in Another Day of being your 10-pin tutorial guy. Also, there's a Reaper not quite fully affected by the Red Skull pin on the last day of the week. I don't have much evidence to back it up, but I'm just gonna headcanon that this is also Hashimoto. As for Kondo, there are a lot of images related to Kandoi throughout Shibuya, but my favorite is this one right here in the Scramble Crossing, which just straight up is a photo of Tatsuya Kondo. I kid you not, I found this like yesterday as of this video releasing. And finally, that's done. There you have every Easter egg and reference I could find in The World Ends With You and The World Ends With You Final Remix. Next time we'll cover the animation because that thing is crammed full of Easter eggs. If there's anything that I missed when it comes to this game, leave it in the comments and I might bring it up in the next video. And also, thank you to our patrons, Bacon King, Kaiser, and Nero Jacob Kurotama, with a bonus thank you going to Nan for doing the thumbnail art for this series. He was super neat to work with and you should check out his stuff. Alright, I'm gonna go, eat lunch now. Bye.